the first step of the Roamerdrive install is to get access to it. For most people, under the middle seat, there is a plate that sits here. I have a toolbox. It's very, very handy. The only slight difficulty is that I also have the heater output coming through here, which will make this removal a tiny bit difficult. Let's go underneath to disconnect the heater first. Pleasant experience. Right. It's not gonna come out without a little bit of gentle persuasion. If at first you don't succeed, try a bigger hammer. Let's have a look. I really didn't imagine that would be quite as difficult as it was. So, step 3, remove filler plug and drain the used oil. Remove the centre front seat, done that. Take out the access panel above the transfer case, done that. Remove the filler plug from the aft side of the transfer case and drain the oil by removing the brass plug in the bottom. If you have any leaks in the bottom cover plate, repair the leaks before installing the Roamerdrive. Well, better crack on with that then, because there's plenty of leaks down there to go around. So bottom of the transfer case off and cleaned up. That's about as clean as it's ever going to be. Just have to find a replacement copper washer for the drain plug, and then we're good to go. Put it back on the car. Fantastic. I am going to slightly deviate from the instructions a little bit, in that I'm going to leave the bottom of the transfer box off. While I put the Roamerdrive in, I think I'll also leave the top cover off, as I have heard that it makes things a little bit easier to be able to see the gears when putting the Roamerdrive in. Don't see that it will do any harm. Right, next step, over there. Install dipstick elbow. Separate the dipstick tube from the brass elbow and screw the elbow into the filler plug orifice using a sealer such as Permatex. Stop when the elbow is tight and pointing up towards the lay shaft immediately above it. Note that on Series 1 and Series 2 models, the dipstick is not used as a filler hole, is absent or too small in diameter. Well, this is a Series 3. I think it's a Series 3 transfer box, but we're sure we'll find out when we try and put the dipstick elbow in. Let's go and get it now. Right, so that is the dipstick elbow. Insert a bit of thread sealant. Now for the tube, which is here. Attach the dipstick tube to the elbow and tighten firmly. Note the tube passes over the nut, securing the end of the lay shaft. The speedometer cable passes between the dipstick tube and the aft side of the transfer case. So that's the lay shaft there, and that goes just like that. And then we tighten that nut up down there to secure it in place. Fantastic, that's the dipstick installed. Next step, remove top and aft covers. I may have done a little bit of a blue Peter here and already taken the bolts off the top cover there. Need a little bit of a clean to get that gasket off, but there's that. Keep it down there for the moment. And need to take off the PTO cover here. So we'll do that now. Now of course we also have to take these studs off as well, so while I'm here, let's see, 2 nuts on there, tighten them down, and that should come right out. In fact, there we go, fantastic. I'll leave one on just to keep the cover from falling off. But there you go. Brilliant. Right, now for the rest of them. So a little bit of gentle persuasion, and there is the PTO cover. It's bearing in a circle up in there. Fantastic, right. Find a home for this now. Right, so covers off. Remove main shaft gear. Put the transfer case and gearbox into neutral. Yep, both in neutral. Rotate the gear to find the locking tab, retaining the castellated nut on the gearbox main shaft. There's the nut, and there's the locking tab. Fantastic. Use a brass drift through the PTO aperture, bend up the locking tab and tap on the castellation, or use special tool. Don't have a special tool. Now withdraw the gear and 2 washers through the PTO aperture. Check the disc-shaped oil flinger located on the shaft. The face of the oil flinger should be inside the inner surface of the transfer case. The flinger disc can be tapped into position using a metal tube or drift as required. Take care not to drop any parts into the transfer case. Right, let's do that then. That's the locking tab up. Just spent a while with a brass drift getting this bolt loose. It's just about starting to come out by hand. Couple more taps, and that should be us. There we go. Out she comes. Fantastic. Right. Now the locking tab. If I would like to play ball. Yep. That's actually 2 washers there. It's a locking tab and the washer behind it. There we go. Stick them in the bag, don't want to lose them. And then, I believe, if I knock this out of gear, this should all separate. And there indeed it does. That's why it's quite easy. Well, useful to keep the top cover off, just to help out. Surprisingly good condition for my car. Right, put that somewhere safe. So I wasn't entirely sure what the instructions meant by oil flinger, but I looked it up. It is on the inner surface of the transfer box. That's sort of metal disc down there. It looks to be in place on mine, so I'll leave all away. Look, isn't a Land Rover job without drawing blood? So on to the next stage. This is step 8 now. Prepare main coupling. Slide the splined coupling out from within the gear end of the Roamerdrive. Check that 3 set screws on the periphery of the coupling are sitting flush with the outer surface. Remove the hexagon nut from within the coupling. Now tap the coupling, roll the end first onto the gearbox main shaft until it is possible, using the 1/1/16 deep socket provided, to screw the hexagon nut onto the main shaft thread. Make sure the nut is not cross-threaded before tightening. Right, go and grab that now then. Right, here is the splined coupling. We've checked that all of these little Allen key screws are below the surface, sitting flush with the outer surface, as it says. The hexagon nut has been removed. So now we tap the coupling, roll the end first onto the gearbox main shaft. There we go. That is sitting on there nicely. And now we insert the hexagon nut at the back of that. Helpful if you use the socket to insert it. Like that. Make sure it's not cross-threaded. Appears to be going on nicely. Assuming all that play is taken up when we torque this down. Yep. So, torque up the bolt, 135 Newton meters, or 110 foot-pounds. So that will be there we go, there's Newton meters, 135. The 135 there. Lock that in. Socket on. We need an extension. There we go. Ooh, and very, very quickly. It says you have to start a handle in and prevent the engine from turning. So we'll slot it into first gear, and we've done that at the front. And there we go, 135 Newton meters, 110 foot-pounds. Right, next step. We want to tighten each of these Allen key bolts, these screws. I want to tighten them up a tiny bit at a time so that they lock onto that nut. So we'll do that now then. It all should be contacting it. We turn just about 1/8 of a turn. Obviously, I'll take that out of gear so we can spin it around. Next step, step 10, fitting top cover and round gasket. Using the rectangular gasket provided, secure the new aluminium top cover in position using a gasket sealant. Fit the new hexagon socket filler plug. Grease both sides of the new round gasket and place it in position on the round PTO opening. Note the correct orientation stamped on the gasket. I am going to leave this top cover off for the moment, just so I can see the gears when I do step 11, which is mounting the overdrive. I have got some gasket sealant, but I don't want to make anything permanent until it is all more or less bolted together, and I know that I don't have to get back in there. So I don't have anything printed on my gasket, but if I line up this elongated hole with the Roamerdrive, then it goes on like that. I'll grease up both sides of this with a bit of bearing grease, and we will get that on. So that's grease on both sides. That will go down there. Be very careful to line the holes up. There we go. Now, mounting the overdrive, working from below. Rotate the housing so the selector rod is at the bottom, raise the nose gear up into the transfer case and insert. How hard can it be? So I think that's about right. That wasn't too bad. One thing I would say is make sure it's in neutral. Transfer box and gearbox goes on a lot easier. Allows the gears to move. Obviously I made that mistake for 10 minutes. That slotted in rather nicely. Now just to put the bolts in. Obviously making sure that the paper gasket is in the right place. So all the bolts in now. Now to tighten them up. Torque to 34 Newton meters. Lubricate the sealing O-rings under the heads. Got that. I'll do that now. Right, torque down to 34 Newton meters. So that's the top cover cleaned. A little bit of sealant around it, and then we have this lovely cork gasket, and of course the aluminium cover and fill plug.